Good evening once again. Welcome to session 4. And we are actually going to discuss two topics today. One is how do you go about designing the program? And then we'll also talk about facilitation skills. How do we really facilitate a program to make it impactful, meaningful, and also it becomes interesting and engaging for your audience? So, as I had mentioned earlier, also that these two topics we have included in this program with the idea that this program is titled as Master Trainer Program. So, as a trainer, I think we need to first of all be very clear about how do you go about designing a program. Of course, those who are into training they must already be doing it, but then probably this will give you more kind of a structure. And in case if you're missing any step, it will give you an opportunity to get an idea about that. And then the second topic that we'll be discussing is about facilitation skills, because we all want to be successful trainers, successful facilitators. I'm sure you all must be doing a lot of things, but I have a feeling that a lot of time we have wonderful content, but if we are not well versed with how do we go about delivering it, it sometimes does not bring in the result that we want. And I'm sure many of you who are already into training, you must have faced situations where you did your best, or maybe any one of the trainer you saw doing very good, but then when it came to delivering, they could not deliver the expected result. So at least these two sessions or these two topics will lay a foundation for all of us, whether you're a trainer or not a trainer, or you want to be a trainer, or even if you are not a trainer, you are not going to be a trainer, but then I'm sure you are participating in conferences and some meetings where you need to present some content and a very short duration. Then how do you make that impactful, and you're able to deliver whatever you want to deliver in the given time. So this will enhance your presentation skills. That's the whole idea about these two topics. And after these topics, I'll be sharing a small, one page document with you. And I will also be sharing on the group that's about what you are expected to do so that the learning goes on from here till we complete the program. So I'll be sharing a list of topics to all of you, which you will have to choose. So I will suggest you choose the topics as early as possible. As soon as I, hear the list with you, write your name in the column of the name of the presenter and also which session are you going to present. So from next session onwards, you will be like if we are say 13, 14 of you or 15 of you, then that means we are just left with 6 sessions. So last session, I normally avoid having any presentation. So that means we have 5 sessions. And I believe if 3 of you present in one session, then by the end of ninth session, we will all of you would have done the presentation. Please remember that's one of the requirement. There is no escape. There is no option. You will have to make the presentation. And those who will fail to make the presentation, they will have to record their presentation and then share it in the group. Once you complete that formality, that requirement, only then you can claim your certificate. Pardon me for being, so little strict on this, because that's what will bring seriousness to the program and also the credibility of the certificate. That's what I feel. So 80% attendance and then also this requirement. These are the two things that I think will help us stay more focused and serious about the program. So this is in nutshell about what we are going to do after these two topics. We'll in the end maybe 10 minutes or 5 minutes I'll spend on how what all you have to do to complete the requirement on those topics. So coming back to the topic of discussion, as I said that we are going to discuss how do you go about designing a program. So if I may ask you to first of all write in your notebook, what steps do you follow? Suppose if you have to design a program or deliver a program, so what steps are you right now following? If you want to write directly in the chat box, you can write in the chat box. That is also okay. But write all steps in one go, not one step, just all steps. Or if you want to write in your notebook, write in the notebook and then you can write in the chat box. So take 1 minute time and think what steps do you follow when you have to design a program, and then transfer those key points, not the sentences, just key points in the chat box. So Anandita, if you will enter one point and then click, what will happen? It will get uploaded in the chat. It's better if you uh, write all the points in one go and then we have a look at everybody's steps that you follow to design a program.
Ma'am, I missed out what you said.
Do you want me to repeat the
Ye-
activity?
No,
Okay.
activity I've heard, I have answered also.
So it's
That
not, see, I want you to write all the steps that you follow one by one.
okay,
So it is
okay,
better either you write down in your notebook and then transfer in the chat box, or you can write, but then all steps should come in one go, not one by one. Yeah.
okay, okay.
Yeah. I can see a lot of comments in the chat box. So I'll wait for another 30 seconds so that everybody's done with it. And then we'll just go through the answers. Is someone still writing? If you just raise your hand, I would know I have to wait for a couple of seconds. Okay, okay. Go ahead, Anu. Yeah. Okay, great. I think I've got good responses. I'll just quickly go through the answers in the chat box for everybody's, understanding. So I think Jenna has started with the topic. That means we have to really be clear about what topic we are doing. Anandita says profile of the participants. Yes, that's very important. Simil has mentioned about make a blueprint, identify resources, budgeting, and make checklist. Okay. Then Purnima says introduction, background, relevant statistics, main content, takeaway, references, feedback. Okay. Dr. Som says, understand the purpose and goal of the program, determine the schedule and format of the program, identify speakers for the program, create a content that is engaging, design the event schedule, proofread and finalize, distribute and promote the program. Okay. Aparna says topic, target, audience, pre-test, background, data, practical examples, post-test feedback. Okay, great. Uh, okay, I think Simil has written same thing once again. Jen has written audience, pre-test, topic, age of participants, time slot, content, outcome, results, feedback. Okay. Anandita says profile of participants, time, budget, infrastructure, part of the day, age of participants. Then Raminder has mentioned selection of the theme, decide on target population or participants, objectives, time planning, topics, select resource person, prepare draft, budgeting, pre-test, post-test, feedback. Dr. Anu says identify training needs, setting objectives, implementing plan, training material, then assessment, feedback, and report. Okay. Dr. Sambaji says topic, introduction, target audience, goal, outcome, feedback. Uh, I think similars try to rewrite again, write objectives, make a blueprint, identify resources, budget, make a checklist, identify evaluation criterion. So, see, you can see, I think all of you have tried to write. And if I go through everything, it's making a lot of sense. So, some of you may have missed a couple of points, but then when you read others' comments, you get to realize, okay, this also is required, to design a program. So, the whole idea is today's session will give us probably more clear steps about how do we go about doing the whole thing. So I would say the key questions that you need to ask is, first of all, what is the goal of the training? If you have clarity on the goal of the training, then you would know why are you doing this training. Objectives are finer, details of the goal, but overall goal of the training, I think that clarity we need to have. That's one. Second is, uh, who is my audience? We'll talk about it, why it is important to know your audience. I never used to ask earlier, but then I realized it really, really helps me to know my audience's training needs. Where are they coming from? What do they want? What are their challenges? Because each one of us come from different, set of workplace and also situations that we face. So who is your audience? We really need to know. We'll talk how why it is important. Then what is the core message you want to give? That clarity we need to have. A lot of time we deliver a wonderful program, but then there is no core message at the end. There has to be a one takeaway, one core message that has to be actually the thread that's going to hold your program right from the beginning till end. And then how can I communicate my message in a most impactful manner? I think these are five things I would say we should have, very, very clear plan in the mind so that we know what we want to do and how far we go in that. And that here I would like to ask you, what could be the different training objectives? Because as I say, we should always be aware of what my training objectives are. Goal is a broad goal, but objectives are a little finer in explanation. So, what could be the different training objectives? Can you think of? Write in the chat box. I mean, even if you write one or two, even that would make us 10, 12 training objectives. Okay. Broaden the perspective of training. Okay. Improve the individual's level of awareness and topic. Okay. Better understanding. Okay. Empower with methodologies. Benefits of training, understanding the requirement, why the training. Okay, I think I'll be a little more specific. For example, some trainings are done just to sensitize people, whereas some trainings are done to create awareness. So a lot of time when I go and do maybe a 2 hours program, and people expect a sea change in people, I mean participants' behavior, which is practically not achievable. So initially, it used to kind of disturb me that why isn't this is giving me the kind of result, or when people say that 2 hour training we did but we did not have the impact, then I make it very clear how much do you think can you really attain in those 2 hours training, and especially if it's a beginning session. For example, if you will talk about the importance and relevance of communication, if that's your starting point, if you start taking that session in your organization, how much of change do you expect? Do you think it's going to be a very big change? So you will have to be really very humble in defining your training objectives. So I would say my training objective in such a situation will be more like creating awareness or maybe sensitizing people. But if I say skill building, 2 hours, or mindset change, or attitude change, all staff should start communicating very, very, effectively and smartly, then I would be failing every time when I keep this training objective. So, what I'm trying to say here, it's very important to have clarity on what my training objective is. It could be creating awareness, it could be sensitizing people, it could be, imparting new skills and knowledge. For example, you take a very specific topic like handling aggressive patient party or managing complaints. 2 hour session can actually empower your people with the way they have to handle complaints, because I am going to first of all help them know why it is important to handle complaints. Then how do you go about doing it? Then maybe you will take a situation and work with them, make them do a role play, maybe you will give them time to practice, maybe you will give them a demo, maybe you will show them a video. So what happens? You have given them a compressed comprehensive skill building session. So it could be skill building or it could be behavior modification. So we need to have a lot of clarity on what is the training objective. That will actually base primarily on what is the training need, isn't it? Your training objectives will be decided on the basis of the training needs. Otherwise, how will you know maybe you want to do something but they don't need it or they already know it. So, very important to know what is the training need. Now, my next question to you is, how do you assess the training need of any set of participants? Would you like to write in the chat box or somebody wants to unmute and speak? I mean, if you are feeling that we are not able to talk. Okay, Dr. Som has written pre-test. So, Dr. Som, if I take pre-test as my training need assessment, way, but then pre-test is usually given just before the training or maybe shortly before the training. I'm not sure what pre-test you're talking about. But then if it is just before the training, then I will not be able to design or modify my training always. Is there some other way? Okay. Interaction with the group. Okay. Observing the actual setup. Yes, that's also one of the good ways. Based on incidents. Absolutely. So if you are getting a lot of complaints and feedback or negative feedback, that means that's my weak area I need to work on. Assessment. Yes, Dr. Bijay. I agree with you. Assessment. Can you tell me how will you assess that? I'm asking how will you assess?
And by the performance, if they are going down in a particular way, then we will
Mhm.
think that they need some training on particular that topic.
Absolutely.
For example, in a hospital setup, for example, some infection control practices are going down, then I think they are lack of training.
Absolutely.
So this we will assess.
So that means it is on-site observation. On-site observation of their skills. Yeah. Questionnaire. Yeah, that's a good way. Researches, studies that show that we are weak in that particular area. Discussion with the administrators. Absolutely. I think that's another important way to find out what are administrators' challenges or what are the management challenges. That will give you an idea what is their requirement. Okay, Anu has written gap analysis. Again, that's a very good way. There are some, there are some benchmarks that you want your participants to attain, but if you feel that they are failing on that, that means there's a gap and that needs to be filled in. Absolutely. So there are so many ways to actually do the training need assessment. And we know about on-site observation. If you go and observe them speaking to the client or interacting with their team members, you get a good observation of what is the weak area. Or it could be like if you ask the management or the administrators or the head of the department or seniors, they will be able to tell you what they feel the participants require. Even if you ask the employees, they also come up with their feedback that I think we need this training. We can handle this, but we can't handle this. So they will say that, yeah, this is okay, but we require more training into this. Or it could be, using tools to assess their knowledge or skill. So skill assessment and knowledge assessment are also ways, like questionnaire Dr. Som has written and Dr. Vijay, this is assessment. Then patient feedback is another good way to find out what do we need to work on. I think that's one area we don't take very seriously, honestly. And if we took patients' feedback seriously and did not just say, oh, patients are very demanding, oh, patients are really, too snobbish. If you take it seriously, I think it's a wonderful way to, put your organization on the path of improvement, quality implementation. Pick a situation, go into root cause analysis and do kappa. Take a corrective action, take a preventive action. Automatically, your errors will start going down and your performance will go up. Complaints and suggestion is another good way. If you take them seriously and you listen to them and you take action on that, that's another good way to find out what is the training need. Lot of organizations use mystery customers. I don't know how far we go finding out using mystery customer. Do you have that kind of a uh, arrangement in your hospitals? No, not really. But in lot of sales department, for example, I interacted with somebody in car dealership. So they said we send mystery customers to see how my salesmen are behaving with the customer and how they are interacting and how they are convincing. So that's another way. But of course, I know we won't be doing this. So once we have the training needs set, we know the training objectives, we now have, okay, I think I need to work on my participants verbal communication or written communication or documentation or professional etiquettes, whatever you decide. That's the time. Now you have to start thinking of how do I do it and what do I add into it. Now what happens, uh, those of you who are very seasoned trainers or you're already thorough with your work, probably you would know what I need to talk in this session. But if you are a beginner, it's very important to know what all can be added to the content. So you will have to actually make a bucket list of topics, points, and contents that you need to bring in. So I use one tool. Let me see if I can share that with you. Give me 1 second. It's called eDraw Master. Has anybody any idea about eDraw Master? No. Give me 1 second to bring that up. Uh, Let me open that. It'll take me a second to start that. I'm sharing my screen to show you how I use eDraw Master. Uh, okay, so this is a tool called eDraw Mind Master. Is this screen visible to all of you? Okay. So normally what I do, this is I'm using a free version of it, but there are paid versions also available. For me, I find it, okay for me, sufficient for me. So I'm not using any, paid version. But if anybody wishes to use the paid version, you can go and buy the one. But this is so what I do, I would normally write whatever topic I'm going to talk about in as a main point. Then whatever ideas and thoughts that come to your mind, you can actually start thinking, okay, I want to talk about this. I want to talk about this. I want to talk about patient engagement. I want to talk about, so this is a topic like patient safety, patient communication, and integral part of, what is it? Let me read. Yeah, integral part of safety in healthcare. So whatever thoughts that occurred to me, I kept writing as a, actually there is an option for a floating topic. So I click this, I create here one topic, whatever I wanted. I write there, and I create lot of floating topics. That means I have to talk about this, I have to talk about this, and then I put them in order: one, two, three, four, five, six. So what happens? This is more like a whiteboard for you on your laptop. Is it making sense? Okay. So this works like a whiteboard for me. See what happens. Normally we think I will be able to remember what I want to write, or maybe you will be writing in your diary that these are the things that I want to talk about. But this gives me the flexibility of taking my content up and down, left and right. So what happens? Whatever thoughts I get, I keep adding to it. If suddenly some pedagogy strikes me, oh, I can use this story here, I will just write keyword here that this story will help me. Or if there's an activity that I think this will really fit in here, then, or some case study I think this will really. So I will just keep throwing my ideas on this whiteboard. And then once this is done, then I actually organize these in a flow, that okay, this will fit in the introduction, this will go in the body, this will go in the activity, and that's all. How do you all do your writing of the content? I want to ask you.
We usually may not use this tool, but we write it down. What is the main theme that we have, and what are the things that we'd like to include, and how do we go about the activities and other things we plan out?
Thank you. Anybody else who would like to share their way of designing or writing their content and flow?
I use something called mind maps.
Ji. Yeah.
Mind maps are a great tool for me to put all the information in an organized manner. It's very good for notes taking, as well as a good tool to teach as well as to learn. So the Canva software, if someone has used Canva, that can be used for making PowerPoint presentations, as well as for learning, as well as for business models or for sales. Whatever purpose we want to use, we can use it. It's a very great tool to create mind maps. So
Canva, you are using pro or free version?
I have tried with free version, but one of my friends uses a pro version, which I found it to be very, very useful to for this purpose.
Yeah.
And mind maps, it's very easy to recollect all the points, especially for exams. I teach my students to draw a mind map instead of writing in paragraphs for essays. So they have to write 15 marks essays and then concised way. So put a mind map and then it just self-explanatory. I
think you're right. Mind map I normally use to structure my key points, what will go where. Absolutely. I think that's so. This eDraw, my Mind Master, helps me to put everything that comes to my mind, whether it is the delivery or it is the feedback or some case book or some everything. And then I see how I can, put it in a structure. So anybody else who would like to share their way of writing their key points or organizing their key points?
Till this moment, I was using this note app and I was randomly just point out all those things which coming to my mind. Then at the time of presentations, I just refer that. So hearing that, I think I'm gonna use this Canva or MindMaster now. It's more useful.
Yeah, I think this is a very simple tool. It has a couple of options which are more than enough for us. At least I find it sufficient. So I haven't bought any paid version of it, and it's working well for me. Anybody else who would like to share how they are designing or planning their program or session? Anu, how do you do it?
Ma'am, for us, any training program starts with a training brochure. In that training brochure, we'll start with introduction, why we are conducting the training program.
Yeah.
Till the assessment and training methodology, everything will be fixed. So
Yeah.
we will be circulating the same training brochure to all the instructors who are involved in that particular program. So object is
So it's
everything.
already a structured plan. It's already a
Yes,
structured
we
plan.
have structure.
But what I am asking here is, like, for example, if you are preparing for a program or a session, so naturally there are some contents that are ready, available. So you would know I just have to refine and deliver it. But when you're creating content for the first time,
Okay.
that's where actually I think we don't have any clue, or we have to really look around. So that's why I said that people who are already seasoned, they would actually know what I want to deliver. Maybe they'll do a little bit of research, but then most of the content they will have. But
If I want to take a session, I'll follow the lesson planning method. Lesson planning means like you're starting with introduction, then see
So
the
Sibyl, you are talking about the structure. I agree. What I'm saying, when you have to create a content and you have to actually, incorporate the different activities and pedagogies to make it interesting. I'm talking about that, which is little deeper than lesson plan. Of course,
literature
PowerPoint
review. I start
presentation.
with the literature review in that case.
yeah. Lesson plan will give you a lot of wonderful structure to deliver your session. Completely agree with you. Thank you. So at this stage, I think it's very important to also talk about different pedagogies for presentation. So if I may ask you to write in the chat box, what different pedagogies are you using on regular basis? So I hope the word pedagogy is clear to everyone, because I remember in the last session, very senior doctor said, I'm hearing this word for the first time. So please explain to me. So please don't hesitate asking me what it is. It's basically nothing but training methodologies, what different training tools we use. So if you're using storytelling, or somebody has written case scenario, somebody will talk about role play. So what pedagogies are you comfortably using on regular basis? Write in the chat box. I can see some answers coming in. Yeah. Mhm. Okay, role play, simulation, group discussion, case discussion, role plays, and case. Okay, case discussion, games, storytelling, case scenarios. Okay, so that means history, practical examples, stories. Okay, great. So how about PowerPoint presentation? You are using it already. I think that's a very probably it's less in now than the other one. Of course, skill station. Okay, wonderful. That's another and simulation labs, now they are very common. Simulation lab, which we never heard of maybe 20-30 years ago. I think now most of the hospitals and medical and nursing colleges have skill labs where they are actually helping people. Yeah, short videos. Yeah, great. So I think this is the time now. Start when you have your topic decided, training need decided. It is the time now to actually think of what pedagogies can I use. So it could be storytelling, role plays, rapid fire round, questionnaires, experience sharing, puzzles, videos, case scenarios, critical thinking, creative visualization. I mean, list is endless. You will come across this list, which I would be sharing, where you have to choose one of the topic. But there can be many more ways, many more ways. So it's very important to actually be well versed with as many pedagogies as possible. That's the only way to engage your audience. So make sure that you have a mix of everything. And I will talk about it, why this mix will help you, when we will talk about facilitation skills, and where I'll ask you to share your scores, the questionnaire that I sent to you, with the purpose to help you know people learn differently. People interact with the world differently. Different inputs have different impact on people. That's why we have to make sure that we engage everybody by using different senses: auditory, visual, kinesthetic, emotional content. We have to use everything to make the whole session engaging and interesting. So once you have done this, now is the time to create a flow in the content. And this is where, like you were saying, the flow first is the beginning. How are you going to start it? Then is, of course, the body, what message you want to give, how you want to give. Of course, then there's an end, and then also takeaway. Be very, very clear about what is going to be your takeaway. Because if there we are missing something, then at the end, if there's no takeaway, then usually people will say it was very nice. But if you ask them, what did you learn? There is no takeaway. And we see this happening. Interesting activities trainers would come and do. But ask the participants, what is the takeaway? They will not have clarity. So we have to be very clear about the takeaway that we want our participants to go with. Again, at this point, it's very important to develop the course material. Before you deliver, it is very important to be ready with the course material. So for a couple of hour session, it could be just a handout. But for a longer program, it's always good to have a handbook so that they can revisit the content. How do you do it? Do you give handouts in all your sessions? How about
We
others?
usually give the souvenirs.
Yeah, your souvenirs in a way.
Like all the topic contents are also there along with other things.
Okay. But souvenir is normally like, it's like, no, I'm talking about the content in the brief. Are you talking about the same?
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe I did not get it. Yeah. So basically, the idea is we need to really create the course material. That's one of the important steps we have to do before we deliver the program. And then, of course, pre-test, post-test, feedback. These three things are must. Pre-test, post-test. Again, this has to be delivered before you actually execute the training. Once you execute the training, it's very important to sit and reflect on the feedback that you receive and also your own gut feeling. So make sure that you take feedback. Feedback has to be to the point, simple, preferably anonymous. So you must be wondering that why do you ask you to write your name? Because here I expect that you will come out with your feedback in a very honest manner, because you want to really tell me what you are looking for. But what happens in a training program, especially when you're doing it for people who are in numbers, and maybe they are hierarchy wise, they are not your hierarchy. They may not be comfortable sharing their name, and therefore they may not give you the right correct feedback. So it's always good to ask them to give anonymous feedback, and also, of course, it has to be simple and to the point. So the feedback form that I share with you, I've just kept 10 points, and nothing like in detail. You just have to tick mark and then write a couple of sentences, whatever you want to write. So same way, I think feedback form has to be very, very simple and to the point. And when you reflect on it, reflect on what you did, there's a gut feeling always after the session. Read it. You will get an idea how you did it. You can see the satisfaction and engagement in your audience's eyes. That gives you a lot of idea about how you have done. Don't miss it. That's where our growth lies. That's where our opportunities lie. Because if you can read from your audience who are not engaged, and people say they were not interested. See, usually when the session does not go well, we normally say the audience was not interested. Participants were just sitting because the management had asked them to sit. What I normally say, bringing the participants to the auditorium is management's responsibility. Engaging your audience is your responsibility. So there is no escape. You can't say that they are not interested. I will talk about it. They will usually not be interested. It's okay. You have to generate interest. That's your job. So sit and reflect. Ask yourself what you did well, what was not okay, what you need to change. There's always a scope to modify. Don't hesitate. redoing your content. Don't hesitate rewriting your, content till you feel that, yes, now this is what I am. This program that I'm delivering today, if you will look at the recordings of batch one, you will find it very different. Because every time I deliver a session, I would go through my notes and I'll see what I think didn't go well, what needs to be cut down, how I need to manage my time and content. I'll talk about time in a minute because that's one area where we normally fail. So how do we really go about doing this? So don't hesitate modifying your program based on the feedback and reflection. Now, certain points that I want you to consider when you're designing your program. One is on-site or online program. That is, what is the mode of training? So what difference will make, and what is your feeling about both online and on-site? Any one of you can unmute and speak if you are wanting to share your experience.
I felt the in-person or on-site training is much more interesting. It helps us in having a good connect with the participant, and the more than the verbal communication, the non-verbal cues that the participants give that will give an idea about their training needs and how we can meet their needs and what are the ways that we can engage them. So, and also at the end of the program or in between during the breaks, the participants will be very comfortably in approaching one-on-one to clear their doubts. In an online program, it's like it's very effective because it's very easy because we can sit at the comfort of our homes, and at the same time, it's very difficult to gauge what someone is thinking or how they are communicating. And if they are forced to attend a program online, they will be they may be viewed spectators, and then that will be and it will be personally for me, I feel like I'm talking to a wall, seeing through to a screen, and if they don't blink, we will never know whether it's a picture that's put up or someone is sitting in person. So I personally prefer an on-site program is much more useful and very productive from my perspective. Yeah. Thank you.
I completely agree with you. I think there is no substitute to, on-site program. That actually makes wonderful connect with the audience, and also whoever are the organizers, even they feel that everything is happening right in front of them. So they are able to see the things rolling down. But we know the online thing has come because of Zoom. There was a time I never agreed to do any online program. Even when I was asked, I said, no, it has to be on site. But then I do see the beauty of online, that I'm able to deliver to any set of audience.
There are many advantages for online also at the same time. Can cover large population at the same time.
So
only thing we have to use different pedagogy depending upon the type.
I agree. Yes, Sibyl, you're right. So you're right. Both has its own advantages and disadvantages. But here, what I want to say, as a trainer, we have to learn to be comfortable with both the platforms. So saying no to a online or on-site would actually limit our potential. Whereas if I'm open to doing online and on-site, I think you can get the best of both. So initially, it will take you time to become comfortable with online, because yes, you feel that. Therefore, see, you start setting ground rules. Please have your camera on. So I take sessions for National Human Rights Commission. They have interns all across the country, and for the online program, around 100 interns enroll for a internship. So I take sessions for them, and I insist on having the camera on. And they are students, so you can well imagine interns and students. I mean, and they know I can't do anything to them because I'm not their teacher or I'm not their regular faculty. But then I make sure that I start the program only when I have my screen at least 25 people cameras. Even if there are 100, at least 25 to 30 people should have their camera. So again, assertion will help greatly. Insist on having the camera on. help them understand why they need to have their camera on, how will it benefit them, and then how you will feel comfortable and you will feel encouraged seeing responses from them. So once you are able to, rather than, I know you wouldn't be rude or aggressive with them, but then a lot of time I see faculty becoming aggressive. Why can't you have your cameras on? Students, I'm going to chuck you out. I'm going to, exit you from the. I have seen this faculty saying this, but we have to assert, but we have to be respectful and insist on it. So I would normally say, I'm really sorry, I will not start my session till you have your cameras on. So they take a couple of minutes, 2, 3 minutes, but then they make sure they have their camera on. And I understand it's very important to insist on having the camera, because out of sight, out of mind. Honestly, like for example, now I can see all of you are there and you have your cameras on. So you are visible to me. So if I'm asking a question and if one of you is not speaking, I'll make sure that I ask you a question and I engage you. Don't expect the participant to come forward and start talking. A lot of time participants just listen. They may be listening very attentively, but then unless they speak, how will they engage with you? So it's very important to call them by name. So when I call you by name, Dr. Sambaji or Dr. Abhishek, that means I make sure that I'm engaging you, I'm involving you. And that's how we have to do this when we are doing an online session. Of course, it's little laborious, but it is very rewarding because you feel good that you could deliver a task. Another important point when you're designing your program is to know the audience size. So what difference does it make when you ask for the audience size, or when you say what audience size is optimum? So what do you think, what is the audience size, optimum audience size for online and for on site?
Maximum 20, ma'am.
Okay, 20. Okay, Anu says 15 to 30. Okay, what do others say? 25 to 30. Okay, Aparna says 25 to 30.
If it is on site, it can be 30 to 50 goes well.
Okay.
And online, usually up to 25 may be fine. Otherwise, it becomes a little difficult to manage.
So normally what I recommend for an online, 20 is an optimum size. Although I know on a screen we can see 25 people, including the host. So maximum is 25, but otherwise 20 is a good number. Then you will be able to talk to each one of the participants at least once in the session. So don't go for a very large size audience on, unless they just want a webinar kind of a thing. Then it is a different thing. On the on-site side, if it is again a seminar where they're just going to be listening, then you can have more than 30, 35, 40, 50 people. But I would suggest that usually this program, especially what we are talking about, we want them to engage, we want them to participate, we want them to do role plays. So 25 to 30 is the good number. So, I mean, if you have large number of people as an audience, you will not be, see front, people who are sitting in the front rows will definitely interact with you. Problem is to engage people sitting in the back end. And that sometimes it will demotivate you when you will see them disengaged. And not only they will be disengaged, they may be doing their personal things. Maybe on phone they are doing something, or they are, and also they could be disturbing your session. So that can be, little difficult for you to manage, and especially if you are a beginner. Once you become seasoned, you know how to manage. So, for example, when I take classes for Maulanas at Medical College, MAMC student, so I get students in the batch of 35. So there, I'll talk about the sitting arrangement also in a minute, but they would sit, in the last row. Almost 50% of them will sit around the table in the last row. So, you can't even look at some of the faces, or they will sit like this in a manner that they are sitting behind somebody and they are not even visible. Of course, I made changes in their sitting arrangement, and I create space now to go to the end of the classroom so that I can, make them talk. And I'll tell you how I normally make sure that they talk and they participate. In the beginning, if you're able to win that, then slowly they start interacting with you. It's just the initial hesitation they will have. But it's very important to make sure that you are able to engage even with the last bench students. So that's why too large an audience is not a good idea. They will not get engaged and you will feel frustrated and demotivated. So it's always good to say not more than 25 to 30 people. That's the optimum number is okay. Now also it's very important to know who is your audience. As I said earlier, I never used to I mean, I would normally ask, are the doctors, nurses, what? But now I specifically ask their names, their age, their qualification, years of experience, and their department. So these are a couple of things that I normally ask. That really, really, really helps me to customize my session, take examples from their workplace, understand what challenges they may be experiencing, and then give them content relevant to their requirement. This has really helped me. I normally share an Excel sheet with the organizers now, and I ask them to give me all details. If you remember, with you all also, I asked you to fill in that form of brief introduction. So that helped me to know what your background is. So make sure that you, especially, for example, if you're going to interact with younger generation, so what challenges do you think you can expect?
They are very restless.
Okay, they are okay. They're restless in the sense it's very difficult to sustain their interest and
Yes,
attention.
yes.
Okay, okay.
Grab
They are
their
not restless, but it is difficult
Attention
to
span.
Yeah.
Shorter attention span with distractions.
yeah, distracted. They get distracted. Yes, Dr. Bijay, you were saying something.
Just said, ma'am, to grab their attention is a challenge.
Is a challenge. It's a challenge. So I remember I did a lot of programs for Delhi University. So it was basically personality development sessions that I did, and they were students of that open school who normally do distance learning graduation. It was on the weekends that we did a program. They would make 200 to 300 students sit in the classroom. It used to be a big hall and then but again, if you are able to find their point that they require or information they require, and if your delivery can be good, trust me, you can even engage that number of audience. But then you have to be thorough with your content, pedagogies, confidence, because initially they will try to shake your confidence. They may ask you questions that might disturb you, but if you are able to get through that, you get their confidence and trust in you, and then they are with you. So it's very important to know who your audience is so that you can customize your delivery as per their requirement. Another important thing that you need to know is how willing is the audience. So what common challenges do you see when it comes to willingness? Mostly, do you get your audience very interested?
Interactions.
Interaction becomes a challenge if they're not interested. What else? But do they, I mean, are they willing? That's my question.
Sometimes, ma'am, time becomes a issue wherein they have a lot of work to do, but they have been, like for example, nursing department, some nursing staff have been assigned to attend the training. The
Yeah.
time becomes such an issue wherein they know they have a lot of work to do, handover is pending, some other official documentation is pending, but still they have been told to attend. So that times they also very difficult to, grab the span and keep the attention in the same consistency level.
So of
They
course,
all
organizers have to make sure that they don't overburden the staff by
yes,
not relieving them from their duty and also, burdening them with additional training. Because see, trainings people are not very interested. Let's be honest about it. People are not very keen. This is what is my, experience when I did my 500 programs with Delhi government. I mean, initial 15-20 minutes will go to help them see why they need to attend the training and how is it going to help them. So of course, I'll be talking about that in a while, but what is in it for me? You can note down this. This is one thing that you have to keep in mind. How are they going to be benefited? What is in it for me? If you can bring in that, they will engage. Because how are they going to be benefited? That's something we have to really focus on. So most of the times your initial time will go in generating interest and willingness to participate. So that's where if you're able to help them see how are they going to be benefited, they will usually get engaged. Especially I know when they are not paying for the program, there's less interest. You will also see even in the paid programs, audience will take time to trust you and participate, which is okay. You need to have that patience. You can't be unhappy about it. So if you are able to, maintain your flow and confidence and delivery and have patience, usually after a while, they will come around. Your audience will come around. But initially, definitely, it will become difficult. Another important point when you're designing a program, I think very, very crucial point is how much is the time available? How many of you have experienced that you go to deliver a session and you are short of time? Have you experienced that?
Yes.
And a lot
Many
of
times
time
it
in
may happen. Yeah,
sorry.
many times it may happen that you plan for 1 hour, but when you reach, they say, please make it brief because the other sessions took more
Yes,
time, so make it half,
Ma'am,
very, very
half a time.
ma'am, to
yes,
add on, I always go short of time when I am unprepared.
yes, very right. When you're unprepared, oh yes, then you will definitely have a lot of challenge. Absolutely. Dr. Abhishek, any experience on your side? Anytime you have presented in any conference and you felt that the time fell short?
This is a very new topic for me. So,
I know.
yeah.
But I can share my experience to you because that might help you in the time in future. Definitely, you will get an opportunity to present in a conference. So initially, when people ask me, "Ma'am, we want to invite you to give a talk in the conference," and the time they will say 8 minutes, 10 minutes. I mean, for me, who is in habit of doing hours of talking, 8 minutes is nothing. I was saying that's not possible. And sometimes they'll say 25 minutes, cover this topic in 25 minutes or 15 minutes. I would say, no, no, I can't do this. But then I said, that's not the way to say no. You have to work on yourself. So that's where I brought in, or I learned, or I read about this concept of elevator pitch. I'm sure many of you may have heard. Anybody who has not heard, I will repeat it for you. Bijoy, not heard. Okay. So I'll repeat it for you. So there's a story. I don't know how far that is true because we get to hear a lot of stories about Ratan Tata because he inspires all of us. So there's a story that this gentleman goes to Ratan Tata with a project proposal with lot of preparation and lot of PPT and everything and data and everything to get a grant for a program. So he is waiting outside his office, Ratan Tata's office, but unfortunately Ratan Tata is busy, and then the meeting goes on, and there's not time left for his presentation. So Ratan Tata says it takes around 7 minutes from my office to the car. And if you can briefly tell me about what your project is about, and if I like the idea, I'll definitely give you a chance to come and give me more details about it. And this man knew that this is the only chance I have. Either I take it or I miss it. And he takes the chance. And this, in those 7 minutes, he briefly gives him the overview of what this project is all about. What are going to be the benefits, how this is going to be delivered, and what all. I mean, whatever he thought was crucial. And at the end of 7th minute, Ratan Tata says, done. I'm okay with your project. Come and discuss other details and take away the grant, whatever you're asking for. So that's the idea we have to learn. If we need to add water in the milk and add the quantity. And if you need to condense, take out butter and say this is what is the delivery. And that's the way we have to really, learn to expand and concise. I learned it. I learned it because I felt if I don't do that, I will miss my chance. So there was an international, conference. We were 5 panelists. We were given 1 hour. 10 minutes each panelist will speak. And last 10 minutes was for question answer. because I had seen this happening, with people that they are not able to deliver in those 8-10 minutes. And I practiced, honestly, let me tell all of you. I recorded my audio video on phone, then I saw the time, and I said, no, this is 8 minutes means I'm taking 11 minutes, so I have to cut down 3 minutes content. So that's how I practice, and then 8 minutes content means 7 minutes my presentation should be over. That's how I cut down my content and delivery. So this presentation, like I'm talking about, it was an international conference. We were 5 panelists. One turn by turn, all of us spoke. I was probably third in the number, second or third, I don't know. So 10 minutes means I knew I have to finish in 9 minutes. That's the way I thought I will deliver. A lot of panelists who were with me, in the initial 7-8 minutes, they could not even do away with the first slide, and their presentation was taken away because it was already on the, on a mechanism where if you don't complete it, this presentation is removed from the screen. So we have to learn that. Usually with practice, you will have lot of content, but then all that content cannot be delivered in the given time. So we have to learn to actually pick what we want to give. Similarly, now initially when I started doing programs, every session would go 8 to 10:30. Then I said, that's not the way. As it is, people are giving 2 hours. It's a very big time. You are coming after a full long day, you're tired, exhausted, still you're sitting fresh in front of me. I can't, abuse your time. I have to value your time. I have to respect your time. I start at 8 and I try to finish by 10 or maybe 5 minutes to 10. 5 minutes here and there, I know it happens. But then otherwise, I make sure that we end it. And that's how we all have to become master at it. That's very, very important. Your audience, see, if you're saying 10, till 10, everybody will be relaxed. The moment it will go past 10, they will start becoming uncomfortable. Isn't it? Happens or not? So when I did session for Aparna, I checked with her. I said, how much time do I have? She said, ma'am, 45 minutes. And I could see the participants were looking at Aparna. 45 minutes? We have to sit for another 45 minutes? Aparna, am I right or wrong?
True, ma'am, true.
Then, of course, since we did a role play, everybody got engaged and they were with me.
Yes.
So that's how you have to make sure that your session is, of course, engaging, and then also you don't overshoot the thing. Make sure that you have a list of resources that you require and you send that list in time, before time, to the organizers. If you are doing it for your own hospital, please make sure that your sitting arrangement, your projector, your mic, your other audio system for video projection. I always suggest initially, please have a wall clock facing you. I have a wall clock right in front of me. I keep an eye on the wall clock. I'm talking to you, but in between, I keep looking at the time so that I know how am I doing it. So that you don't, again, miss on time. Of course, things like having a name tag is a wonderful idea. That's one thing I'm using with MAMC and also with a lot of hospitals. I ask them to have a 3 by 2 inches simple cardboard and a pin, safety pin, not all pin, common pin, but safety pin. And with first name in capitals, readable at a distance of 10 feet. This is what I tell them. That will give you a lot of control in the session. Because when you call your audience by name, they stay alert. They're engaged. They know they are being called for. So I make sure that something like this you keep in mind, that you ask them to have a name tag. Just first name, readable at a distance of 10 feet. Tell them clearly so that they have it. Other stationery like pens and everything, they will have to arrange. If you are going to use some activities, do some activities which require some props, you will have to either take it with you or ask the organizers to arrange for that. Things like water facility, restroom, all these things I think we should ensure. So recently I'd gone to what was that place? Allahabad for their for their annual program. Yeah. And I said I need to use the restroom. I mean, restroom was worse than any train. As an organizer, if it's your own hospital, make sure, or your own institution, make sure that these things are also arranged and looked after and kept. These are simple tips, but that will give you, a lot of control on the overall delivery of the program. So as I said, now few tips that I want to give you to deliver a successful program that will help you to, make sure that you have control on the audience and you engage them well. As I said, the first thing is nobody wants to do anything for anybody else. They want to do it for themselves. So how do you make sure that you let them know what is in it for them? So how are you going to start your session or deliver or explain? What are they going to learn or get benefited? How is that going to improve their performance? How is that going to improve their satisfaction or their growth in their career? That has to be brought in. And second important point is make sure your beginning is very well. So how do you all begin? If you want to share some interesting way that you begin, Jenna, if you are into doing sessions, then how do you do it? And Dr. Samaji, do you take classes?
Yeah, I do take classes. Yes.
Okay, Dr. Soma, yes, I know you are taking.
Yeah.
So I was asking.
Yeah.
Samaji.
I thought you called my name.
Yeah. I know you are already into Dr. Sambhaji, do you also take some classes?
No, madam.
You are not taking. So are you finding this session useful, somewhere helpful, or
Yes, definitely useful.
you are finding? So I mean, I'm sure somewhere if you are doing that kind of talking, so have you ever used any good way or a different way to start your session? Think about it. I want Jenna to answer first.
Okay.
Jenna, go ahead.
Ma'am, normally we have programs in the hospital. So normally I would just say, "Good morning, everybody," whatever the time of the day, how are we today? I would just say something like that, and then I would say, "Okay, fine, we are having this program on this particular topic, whatever."
Okay.
And maybe we introduce ourselves. I introduce myself first, and then let them introduce themselves, and then we have the PowerPoints, and we go about. Only
Okay.
I make them comfortable in the beginning. That's more important. That everybody's comfortable when we start the session.
Thank you. Yes, Anandita, go ahead.
Ma'am, for me, what I do is it depends upon the topic of the training. So, for example, if it's on communication, what I do normally at the very beginning, after the brief introduction, I start with the short video of Dhamal, wherein there is totally confused state wherein the air traffic control manager is not understanding what is happening when the father and the son wants to land. So it's a hilarious. They enjoy. And after they see the video for 5 minutes, I have ensured that is a short video. Then I ask them what went wrong and say, so I find them very engaging. So now for time management, if I have a topic on time management, what I do is I tell them a story, like a small old story wherein the man was very lazy, how the time went by, he didn't realize, and then when he realized it was just too late. So this is so my idea of introducing a topic differ depending upon the profile I'm handling and how to make it interesting. Sometimes I start with Chinese whisper. How communication can
so
go
that means you are
very well.
using different modalities to make it.
Yes. I keep changing. If there are junior nurses for ages small, I play with them the Chinese whisper. And there only I show them it's an experiment that how your communication is going different, although we are in a communication session. That way.
Thank you, Anandita, for sharing that. Dr. Soma, I think you wanted to say something.
Yeah, how I start is it depends on I usually cater to postgraduate adult learners. So it depends upon the time of the day I'm taking the session for them. If it's in the morning session when they are fresh, then I'll start with the storytelling or tell them a joke or tell a personal experience or an clinical impact that the session is going to have on their patients. If it's going to be an afternoon session or a boring one, I make them do some yoga stretches, clap their hands,
Okay.
or make them play some dumb charades. So that will activate them, and then I'll just make them sit around. And then if I start the session, they become more attentive. And I usually cater to a small group of students. So it will be, since I know them by names, I make sure I have a one-on-one conversation with each one of them so that I'll engage them at appropriate points of time to
Wonderful.
keep them interactive.
Thank you. So anybody else who's using some different way, like
Sometimes I may begin the class with a question, which is something very relevant, like if it is like a maternal health, I may ask a question. Can you say how many mothers are dying in India?
Oh, that's an interesting way.
Something like that. So they
you
will
ask them
start
a
thinking
question,
about it.
yeah,
And
to get their attention. Great. Anybody else who would like to share their different way of introducing a topic?
We normally do ice-breaking activities with case discussions.
Yeah, that's
So
a good way.
after introduction of a speaker as well as the participants, then we'll start with the case discussion that you have got some patient with so and so. Then we'll be bringing them back to the discussion.
So, one of the assignment in the list of topics is interesting way to initiate your program or start your program. So there are so many good ways, and I must tell you, well begun is half done. Especially, when the audience is not interested, if you are able to get their attention, you will see they will slowly align themselves with you. And if in the beginning, if your initial beginning is like, little dry, or just you rush to the topic, uh, they would not align with you. And then it will become harder for you to capture their attention and keep them engaged. So there are so many ways. Let me show this presentation with you that I normally talk about. Okay, give me 1 second. Okay. So as I said, beginning and end should be very engaging and very well thought with clear carry home message. So make sure that you very clearly know how you are going to start it. It could be using a video. It could be using a puzzle. It could be using a startling statement. It could be using some activity. But it cannot be just, okay, today we are going to talk about it. That's not going to help you get their attention. Please remember, content has very limited value. Focus on creating experiences. So more opportunities you will create to, have experience, it will have long lasting impact. And we all know that when you engage only the visual part, for example, if you are showing them a PPT, you are just using one small part of the brain. Or if you're just listening to what the speaker is saying, then we are just again using small part of the brain. But if you are using all senses, then automatically the person is going to get engaged and there is less chances of distraction going away. So we have to be creative with our training curriculum and pedagogy and delivery so that make sure that all faculties are engaged and they don't get distracted. Another good way is ask thought-provoking questions rather than giving information. Because when you will ask questions, they will be bound to think. They will have to think and answer. It's very difficult when you listen to a question and you don't think and you just say blank. And ask questions that are not very difficult. Ask which they can relate to. And there's a possibility of an answer. And you will see them coming. Also, make sure that when you are giving them some statement or some, you're talking about something very strong, it has to be supported with studies and reports. 1 second, give me 1 minute. Have we missed some slides? Oh, they will come in the next one. Sorry. That facilitation skill slides will come in the next one because there were a lot of slides. So the whole idea is that we have to make sure that we begin and end well. And then also whatever opinion or statements you give, it should be supported with studies and reports, especially when you are dealing with educated audience, learned audience. They will not get easily convinced with what you say unless you have studies and reports to support what you are saying. At the same time, make sure that you keep updating your knowledge and skills. Keep reading books related to your subject. Keep reading articles. Not only this, see, communication, interpersonal skills, interaction, they have a lot of human element and human psychology element. People will ask you questions related to those aspects also. For example, somebody might come and say you, we are so much overworked, how do you expect us to, communicate well and behave well with our patient? So you can't say, yeah, I understand, it's very difficult. That's where you have to empower them with the right knowledge and understanding that stress is not only external, it is internal. And if you work on your, stress combating ability, you will be able to manage even difficult situations. So that's where, understanding of stress management, time management, life management, work-life balance, all that is going to come handy. So make sure that you are well read about your topic, so that you don't appear to be less prepared in any session. I have brought up this point once again. Regularly time your session because that's where we normally, we have problem. So we have to be really very realistic in how much we can cover. Most of the times your activities will take longer than you plan. So be ready with plan B, what you need to cut down. Read the feedback very carefully because that's where your growth lies. That's where your opportunities lie. And take it seriously. Every feedback, as I tell every time, I don't close the feedback window till next 3-4 days. I keep waiting. So last time also I received only 9 feedbacks. I closed it after 3-4 days. I read every feedback and then I closed it. Okay, now I think I will not get any more feedback. But then I read everybody's feedback very, very carefully. Regularly reflect on your performance. And then I think this is just to summarize. I'll just quickly move to the next slide. These are the last 2 slides I want to show you. So make sure that your objectives are very clear. You know about your target audience. The content is relevant and up to date and aligned with your audience. It can be a program for doctors or it could be for nurses. You can't deliver the same content to both. It has to be customized. Make sure that it is engaging and interactive. Organize the structure in a logical manner, maybe from simple to difficult. We'll talk in the next topic. We'll talk about this, but it has to have some logic. And then, of course, the trainer or the delivery person or faculty has to be knowledgeable and skilled. Assessment and feedback will help you to improve. And then flexibility. I think that's one attribute we all must have. Otherwise, we will have challenge. And then practical application. Whatever they learn, if they're not able to apply, and whatever they learn, if it is not related to their real life scenarios, they are not going to really enjoy or like it. And then, of course, evaluation and improvement will bring in continuous refinement in your session. How many of you have heard of the concept of 10,000 hours? Okay. How about others? Have you heard of Dr. Abhishek? Dr. Purnima? Anybody? Dr. Soma has read. So there's a actually a theory, and also there's a very beautiful book called by Nani Palkiwala. It says, invest 10,000 hours into anything and you can become a master of that subject. The only way to improve your delivery skills, training skills, facilitation skills is practice, 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 practice. So they did a lot of experiment with people who were playing, musical instruments, and they saw with the number of hours of training, even average performers excelled. They were better than the one who were very skilled and very well trained. And more you will practice, more refinement will automatically come. Any questions or comment for this particular section of the session? That's how do you go about designing a program? Before I move to the next part, which is facilitation skills. Do you find this session useful? You think this will help us?
Yes.
So, ma'am.
Yes.
Thank you. So we are going to the second half of the session, and that is facilitation skills. What do we mean by facilitation? What do we mean by facilitation?
How to actually conduct the session.
Why don't we call it training?
Execute. How
do we execute training? Okay. Okay. So how is it different from training or teaching?
It's more making them based on the need of the audience and making them understand and follow.
Okay.
In facilitation, we are not going to teach them. We are going to guide them, and we are making them to answer and taking. It's like a torch. We are just putting the torch and we are directing them. We are not teaching anything in facilitation.
Very good. Can I ever say that I'm teaching you anything? I mean, with a learned audience, you can never think that I can teach anybody anything. But what I can do, I can help you discover.
the teacher is basically a facilitator only.
The teacher is a facilitator, but usually teachers are not facilitators. They just teach and go. If you remember your college time, they would come with an agenda, they will deliver whatever content they have to do. Whether you have learned or not, that's not their. I mean, really, they never find out have people really learned. So as a facilitator, please remember you are going to be dealing with learned audience, educated adults. Adults are different. We can't teach them. They don't want to learn. They already know a lot. But you have to find a technique where you can help them discover, acquire, retain, and apply knowledge and skills. So it is not that you are going to have a content that you are going to deliver and they are going to take it from you. In any case, adults don't take anything easily. There's a filter. They will keep it there. Hold on. I need to first check what is coming in. Is it making sense? Is it right? Is it true? Is it useful? So n number of filters are there. Then we let the content go in. But as a facilitator, you have to be very, very smart to foster curiosity, create interest, have discussion, and then make them reflect. Because when they will reflect, they will realize the gap. Oh, this is what is the right way. I am doing it this way. That means this is better. That's where they will feel like taking the information that you will give. And in a very smart way, you will never say you are wrong and I'm right as a facilitator. You will say these are also the options available. I think what you're saying is right, but then can we try this way? So you never thrust your opinion. You never just say what you're saying is wrong or what you're doing. Especially when you will talk about healthcare communication, let me tell you, anytime you go with the idea, oh, you don't know communication, you don't know how to talk, because of you, there is so much of chaos, they're going to throw you out of the window, not even out of the door. So that's not going to work. You will have to be really very smart in helping them say, this is what we are doing, this is the result. These are different ways we can try. And actually, honestly, we are also experimenting with communication. There is no one ideal way to communicate in all situations. We will have to actually find out the best way in that situation. Because especially if we talk about India, it's a very diverse country, diverse population, education, economic, situation is very different from urban to rural to town to different places. So you will have to really customize your content. So you will be actually giving your information not like an information, not thrusting your information, but as one of the options available. And the difference between teaching and facilitation is in teaching, it's mostly passive and one way, isn't it? Whereas in facilitation, it is never one way. Rather, I have to ask you to write in the chat box, because if I allowed you to speak, I will not be able to deliver the session. You will have so much to share. Not that you do a lot of talking, but you have so much to share. So that's the difference. What more difference do you think is between teaching and facilitation?
In teaching, we are going with a very specific content that we have to cover this. But facilitation is more based on the need of the
Absolutely.
target group.
So there is no fixed, tank that this is what we have to do. We are flexible because we know we have to go with the flow of what is being discussed and how it is working. Absolutely. What else?
Help the trainee to identify their potentials.
Okay, you help the trainees to identify their potential. I think it's better if you raise your hand so that, I virtual hand, so that I would be able to request each one of you to by turn speak. Anu, I think you wanted to say something. After Anu, Anandita. Yeah, Anu.
In facilitation, we are not teaching anything and we are encouraging them to get the points.
Yeah.
In teaching, we are giving our whatever content we are getting ready, we are just delivering that. Here
So
we are not delivering anything. We are just encouraging them.
So it is directed and controlled by the teacher.
Yes.
But in facilitation also there is an agenda. There is a purpose. There is an objective. But it is not very rigid. We are very flexible. Yes, Anandita, go ahead.
Yeah, ma'am, quite similar to this. In teaching, there could be some new concepts that for the first time the students or the participants are hearing. But in the other way, it's like they already know this. It's just a polishing being done, wherein it is being more refined and things like that.
Absolutely. Very true. And also, see, in teaching, the teacher is separate from students. You come with the subject knowledge and you assume my students do not know this. In facilitation, you don't go with the idea that I know more than my audience. You believe that I'm just going to play the role of a catalyst, and I'm going to hold discussion where new ideas come in and new discussion happens, and there's a learning for everyone. See, each one of us is coming from a different background, different knowledge, different skill level, and we learn from each other's discussion and sharing. That's the whole idea of facilitation, and that's where we prefer calling it facilitation rather than calling it a teaching or a training program. Now, how is adult learning different? How do you think is adult learning different? Because we know we are dealing with adults here. So how is adult learning different?
Ma'am, the
Adults
trainer.
learn by adults learn by experimenting or experiencing. For children, we need to teach them do this, go through this path to lead this destination. But if we say the same thing to the adults, they will not listen to us. But if they experience the process of learning, then they will learn much better. So that's what the
experience. Absolutely correct. Yes, Dr. Purnima, go ahead, please.
There are likely to be more barriers, and they may be less open to learning. Their own experiences and their own, this is the way I do it, may come in the way, and there may be less flexibility, less scope for improvisation. So we have to work past that barrier to get useful information across.
Agreed. Because they already have learned something. They have a schemata. They have a frame of reference already there. So if it doesn't go well with their frame of reference, for them, they have to dismantle their frame of reference and reconstruct a new one, which is very difficult, very laborious. So there will be resistance. That's why we say people resist change, because what they are doing, they are in their comfort zone. They're happy doing what they're doing. So if you make them change, they feel uncomfortable because they have to come out of that comfort zone. Absolutely. What else? What do others say? Aparna.
Trainer has to be quite receptive to the feedback also, ma'am.
Oh,
Even the
yes.
trainer needs to be very flexible while taking the adult participants who are will be trained.
I agree completely. So what other challenges do you experience with adults? So let me show you a small, presentation on this. Aparna, do you have anything to share on this?
For now, nothing.
Okay. So see, for adults, you will see awareness versus consciousness. What do we mean by awareness? And what do we mean by consciousness? What is awareness?
Ma'am, can I try?
Sure, please go ahead.
Yeah, so awareness is they are aware what is happening, but not very mindful of what they are doing. Like for example, smoking, they are aware that smoking is injurious to health, but still not very conscious and still using it, not very mindful of the fact that they should not be using it.
Wonderful. Thank you for that.
Thank
So
you, ma'am.
awareness is knowing and consciousness is using that knowledge. With adults, you will see very often that when you talk about something, they'll say, yes, I know. Yes, I know, because they know. It can't be that they don't know. But are they really using that knowledge in their day-to-day life? That is what is to be asked. So how many of you believe that we need to treat our staff and subordinates with respect? When we talk about, no, we should be nice to our staff, we should be very respectful, we should be considerate. But how many of us genuinely practice it? So you will know there is knowledge, there's no doubt. But how many of us are using that knowledge? That needs to be asked. The second question is about the different in learning style. So we all learn differently. And I want to ask you, have you all taken that questionnaire? Did you all take that questionnaire?
Yes.
Yes.
And have you counted your score A, B, and C? How many A's?
Yes.
How many B's? Okay. Write in the chat box your A, B, and C. Let me open the questionnaire in my phone. Yeah. Write your A, B, C in the chat box. Okay. 6A. Okay. Okay. C12 कैसे हो गया? छोटे कितने questions हैं?
15 questions are there, no, ma'am?
Oh, yes. Oh, my
15
God.
questions.
Okay.
I scored a lot of C's, so I'm a little wondering what it is.
That's what I was surprised at. Okay. So very quickly, I'll go through some of this thing. So for example, if we take Dr. Purnima's example, C12, B2, A1. Anybody would like to take a chance to interpret this score? C12, it's an interesting score. Worth discussing. Anybody would like
more of a feeling person. It's like the learning style will be if she feels like that brings in happiness or something to her, then she will learn. That's the way of putting it.
So much of engagement with feelings.
Yes.
So if I want to engage her, I have to engage her feelings. If I just give her some content, or if I read something to her, she will not get engaged.
Give a shocking statement or a story, it will be grasped immediately.
Immediately. Now let's look at Dr. Bijoy's scores. 6A, 2B, 7C. Again, somebody else? Would you like to try interpreting? Anu? A is for, if you look at the statements, A is for visual learner. So when we say visual learner, that means visually things, get into you sooner. You interact with the world on a visual level more. Example I'm giving. If it is auditory, you engage with the world with the auditory sense. You listen and understand faster. If it is I on B, and if it is C, that means emotionally, if things appeal to you, you get engaged. Now, if you look at Dr. Bijoy's score, his A is 6, C is 7, 6A, 7C. That means emotions and visually he gets engaged. Auditory engagement is less. Dr. Bijoy, do you agree with your scores?
Yes, ma'am.
So, for example, if somebody tries to explain you verbally, you will say, "Show it to me. Show it to me. I want to see it. Bring that paper to me. I will be able to understand." So if I share my experience, my husband, I'm not talking about now, I'm talking about good 25 years ago. Now, of course, I know what my what primary senses I use in my engagement. So he would come home, like for example, if he visits one of his friends' clinic for inauguration or something, then he'll come home and say, "Oh, he has really designed a beautiful clinic. The moment you enter, on the left hand side there is a reception, and then on the right there is a waiting area. Then on the first left there is a first chamber, and then on the opposite side this is the." He would explain to me, and I am not an auditory learner. I am a visual learner. For me, it used to be very frustrating. I'll say, "Draw and explain to me what you want to say." So I like to write. I like to make points. I like to do things, draw things. That gives me, clarity of the concept. Now, similarly, if you will see at everybody's scores, they are all different. But incidentally, for your audience, you will not be able to do this kind of a evaluation. But what is the good way? Make sure that your program has all senses involved. It should have enough of auditory content, enough of visual content, and enough of kinesthetic and emotional content. Make a good mix of all three. That way, you will ensure that you don't miss on any of your participants. If it is too much of emotion and no visual, somebody might say, "मजा तो बड़ा आया पर कुछ समझ नहीं आया," है ना, बिकॉज उनको कुछ आपने हैंड आउट नहीं दिया, कोई पीपीटी में कुछ नहीं दिखाया उनको, होता है. So that way, it's very important to engage your audience using all senses so that they don't get distracted and they also understand better. So we all have different learning style. We have different ways of connecting with the world. Some senses are our primary senses. They work all the time. Some senses are secondary. We have to see the content has to engage everything, has to engage all senses. Then the third point about adult learning is they unlearn slowly. How many of you still prefer paper over ebook?
Myself.
Same here. I will have a book in my Kindle and on my laptop, but the fun I have by holding the book in hand
Yes.
is different. So Dr. Bijoy is also saying yes. Anita is saying yes. I know it's always good to use, ebook because it's easy to carry and then it is easy to read anywhere and you waste less paper and less trees. But then we like to, hold the book in hand. Similarly, with adults, we see that whatever they have learned, that has gone deep down into auto mode. For them to change that is very difficult. It's not easy. It's not easy. So you will have to be tolerant to be more, to be more patient, to give them that much of time to unlearn and learn something new. Okay. How many of you write with your right hand?
I.
Okay. So write your name in your notebook with your dominant hand.
Done.
Now write your name with your other hand that you do not use for writing. How did you feel it? What is the feeling? Comfortable?
No control.
Laborious, ma'am.
Very laborious. And if I asked you to write all your notes with your non-dominant hand, okay, I think Dr. Bijoy could write with both the hands equally good? No. And if I asked you to write with the non-dominant hand, take all your notes with the non-dominant, how will you feel? Not
Difficult and
not comfortable, isn't it? So people take time to unlearn, and then adults especially, they like to share their experience. Therefore you will see a lot of you like to share what you know, what you're doing, how you're doing, because you believe that there's something new to learn or to share. And then of course people take time to change, because it's not easy to change what you are doing. So if you try to change them and if you expect them to suddenly change, it is not really easily possible. They will take time to change. Now, how many of you have actually started implementing the points that we discussed in session 2 and session 3? Raise your hand. Verbal and non-verbal communication, and also the skills that we discussed last time. 5 skills, essential skills. I can see only one hand, Anandita. Okay, Dr. Soma, great. How about others? Not yet.
yes,
Because,
using.
yeah, but it takes time to change. The thing is, it's not easy to change quickly. People take time to change. So it's an acronym of adult that we are using to help understand how adults are different from others. They are aware, but consciousness comes slowly. They all learn differently, so we have to make sure that we engage them. They unlearn slowly, so we have to have patience. They like to share their experience, so we have to create opportunities to share their experience. And then, of course, they take time to change. We need to have patience to give them time to accept what we are. So, what will help us here is the concept called humda. If you understand humda, you will see, you will have more patience to let them, ultimately become, start applying. So adults would hear first, but before they actually start applying, they try to understand and then also meditate. They start thinking about it. Is it making sense? Is what the facilitator is saying meaningful, useful, helpful, true, applicable, feasible? And if then they find it useful, they would digest and also apply. But then we have to have patience to let that happen. So concept of humda gives us a clarity that it won't happen all of a sudden. Things won't happen overnight. People will take time, they will listen, they will understand. You have to give them an opportunity to, think about it, assimilate, and then apply. So I think this gives us fair idea about adult learning. So keeping these in mind when you're designing your program and delivering your program, please make sure that you talk about what is the purpose of the program and how are they going to be benefited. So creating a need to learn is very important. Why they should learn, how will they be benefited? If you are able to bring that up, they will be engaged. So make sure that you engage them by making them, share their experience, and also make sure that you create a friendly and informal environment and climate. Otherwise, they will not open up. They will be skeptical, they will be disengaged, they will not be interested, or they may not even find it. I mean, they may even go back. As I told you, when I read feedback, especially people who are not engaged during this session, I see their feedback is that they are okay with it. Okay, good. But people who are engaged, who are answering, who are questioning, they give the feedback that they enjoyed the session. But if you are able to create the environment where they feel comfortable and they also open up, and it's more of an informal, climate, they usually open up. And then, of course, as I said, if you are able to make them share their experience, relate with it, and acknowledge and also appreciate, definitely you can engage them. So the trainer has to be thorough with not only the subject knowledge, but also training pedagogies, and also, you know, understand what is happening in the, in the group. Because a lot of time, if you are not in touch with what is happening in the group, you may miss on important reading. So certain guidelines that will help us to, effectively prepare ourselves for the delivery. One is the rule of 10:1. Anybody knows what is 10:1? So when you are preparing 10:1, any guess? Even if it is wrong, it's okay. Jana, you know? Go ahead.
Attention span?
Not attention span. Any other guess? Good attempt at least.
One trainer with 10 contacts? No, sorry.
Make
A
a
game with 10 people?
some
No.
change in presentation once in 10 slides or in 10 minutes. Style, change of slides, change of style.
Good attempt, but no.
Ma'am, maybe we try 10 different ways to deliver one message.
Again, good attempt, good guess, but no.
When you are preparing, always remember that there will be one person who will always make some trouble, or he can ask some questions which we are not prepared for.
Ma'am, at least 10 words in 1 minute.
Again, good attempt, but not the answer I'm looking for. When you are preparing for a session. Yes.
Prepare for 10 hours of prepare for 10 hours if you're going to deliver for 1 hour.
Yes. Actually, you need to invest almost 10 times the time, of the time that you are going to deliver. For a 1 hour session, you will require at least 10 hours of investment. So when you go unprepared, or if you are not sufficiently prepared, it will come out in your performance. But if you are thorough with your preparation, you would actually talk as though you have done this 10 times. So make sure that you prepare well. Also, know more than what you will ever use. So again, the rule is at least 3 times more than what you are going to talk. Because a lot of time you will have very learned audience, and also the audience who just want to check on your knowledge or your ability or your competency. So if you know, if you're able to answer and talk, it gives you a lot of edge over others. So make sure that you are prepared well with knowledge. Also, as I said earlier, also anticipate all activity will take longer than planned. A lot of time we think I'll be able to do in 10 minutes, almost like 3 times. And then make sure that you plan for both small and the larger than anticipated group. Sometimes you will think, oh, there will be 20 people. Get into the audience, and then you will see 70 people sitting in the audience. I mean, you can't say, please send them out. I remember in one of the programs, they said, we have to talk about breaking bad news and for our doctors. Incidentally, in the last minute, they could not have the doctor, so they made everybody sit in the audience, and now they want you to talk about breaking bad news. What will you do? I mean, I have had such experiences. So sometimes the audience category will change, sometimes the size will change. So you have to be mentally ready for that. Now, coming to the training format, it's very important to clearly know how you are going to deliver your content. So it could be like simple to complex. So make sure that you introduce the topic. So even if you look at the complete program schedule, we started with very simple topics, and we are slowly, getting into the complexities. So it should always be simple to complex so that people also, get aligned with your flow. Or if you want to share something abstract, you have to start from concrete and then take them to abstract. So to give you an example, for example, especially when we talk about writing SOPs, a lot of people are not very comfortable about writing SOPs. They don't know, they don't want, they say, I don't know. And mostly if you go to the hospitals for assessment, we see the SOPs are actually copy pasted a lot of time because they don't know how to go about writing SOP. Now, for example, the example I normally give, I would say, do you know how to make a cup of tea? So you ask anybody, I'm sure they'll say, yes, I know. So you say, okay, how do you make a cup of tea? They'll say, okay, take a saucepan, add this much of water, put it on the burner, and then, after the water starts boiling, tea leaves, everything like, okay, can you write this down for me? They will write down, okay. Now you have written an SOP for making a cup of tea. Can you write an SOP for, suturing a clean lacerated wound? They can do it. So give them some concrete example that they're seeing every day that they can, and then you take them to abstract. You will be successful in delivering even difficult concepts. Taking them from known to unknown. If they know something and you want them to learn, take them to unknown. Start with known so that they know. For example, I know when we ask people to learn how to wash hands using 7 steps, they know initial few steps, but some of the steps they will be missing. Ask them to show what steps they know. Somebody will show you 3 or 4, and then you introduce rest of the 3 or 4. So you're taking them from known to unknown. So these are different ways that help us to design our training format that makes it easy for us to deliver. At the same time, I think one sequence I always say, especially you will see when we will do role plays after session 4. Uh, Tell them what needs to be done, show them by giving them a demo, and then let them do it. That's another good way if you want them to learn something. First, they need to be told what needs to be done. Then it's good if you show them how that can be done, and then let them do. A lot of time to help your audience know that they don't know how to do it, you make them do first, and then you give them a return demo. That's another way I use. Because if you will tell them, show them, they will be able to do, but they will never realize that initially they did not know. So sometimes making them do, and then you tell what needs to be done, show them, and then make them practice, they will be more aligned to your objective. So these are different ways I use to impart training. Now, some of the basic presentation structure, which we talked in previous session also, it should have an opening, it should have a message, it should have an evidence to what you saying, because as I said, without evidence you will fail. Your audience will not take what you are saying. And then of course there has to be closing with the takeaway. So please prepare for each segment very, very carefully. A lot of us do a wonderful opening. They have a beautiful message, but then there's no evidence. A lot of time we have a wonderful message, wonderful opening, but the closing is not done well. People are not, there's no takeaway, there's no learning, there's no recapitalization. So that has to be made sure that we give them the content in a very structured manner that goes well. So very quickly, let me take you through a couple of slides before we go further about how do you handle difficult audience. That's one thing I want to do before I close the session today. So as I said, you can make an impressive opening by using different ways. You were talking about doing some video or role play or some puzzle. So there are so many ways that can be used to make an impressive opening, and you should be thorough with it. You have to be thorough with it. Only then you will be able to, as I said earlier also, well begun is half done. So make sure that your opening is excellent so that they are aligned with you. So For example, if I want to talk about the errors that are happening in healthcare, and if I show them these statistics, they cannot deny this. This is a report by NHS of errors that happen in 2021. And if it says that 97 surgeries performed on wrong part of the body, I mean, they can't say that this is wrong report or this is not true. What is being said is not correct. So when you give them some such evidences to start with, it helps you getting control of the situation and aligning them with you. Or you show them a picture and you ask them, okay, how many faces can you see in this picture? Again, they will start observing, and then somebody will say one, somebody will say two, somebody will say three. Automatically, you have been able to capture their attention. Or share some experience that you had, you visited some place, or you liked it very well. Even that's a good way of starting. Coming to the presentation part, I think, as I said earlier, also, content has very limited value. Experience has long lasting. So make sure that you create a lot of opportunities by using different pedagogies. The format of presentation should be limit this segment to 90 minutes. I mean, I don't think any session should be longer than 90 minutes because it's very difficult to retain the attention and interest of your audience. Build activities in each segment so that in between, when different senses are used, they get engaged and also interested also. Again, make sure that you use visuals and hands-on opportunities to uh, engage them and provide opportunities for repetition and reinforcement. So presentation, even if it is a PPT that you need to use, definitely there will be a time when you need to use PPT, but that should make sure that it should have hands-on opportunities simultaneously. And then project enthusiasm, confidence, and encouragement. Give me 1 second to see how much of it is left. Okay, we'll discuss up to closing, and a small part of it we'll discuss in the next session. I hope that's okay with everyone. Okay. So this is about the presentation part. Now, how to ensure participation? It's very important, especially for the on-site program. You will see people sitting in the front on the front tables or front rows will engage. But if you really want to engage even the set of people sitting in the last tables or the last rows, you have to make sure that you create activities where you sometimes vary the group size. So it could be you have an activity where entire group is engaged, or it could be people sitting on one table, two, three, four people. You give them an activity which people sitting on different tables do it, or it could be three people in one group. For example, you create a practice session where somebody plays the role of a doctor, the other one is patient, and the third one is patient's attendant, and you have an activity. Or it could be something like in pair. If you remember, we did some activities on listening and also on building rapport, where I made you work in the breakout room in pair. So the idea is keep varying the group size so that people engage, interact with each other, and they open up also. Even the approach can be varied. For example, you may ask Socratic questioning, where you are asking questions to just make them think. Or it could be critical thinking, where there is a problem and they need to, find a solution. So they need to brainstorm. Again, make them a group and you give them an exercise where they need to work. Or creative thinking, where they need to think and write and share something which they don't have anything ready made, but you are making them think and do. Or it could be role plays. So what I'm trying to say, when you have different ways or case studies, for example, so you are varying different approaches, so that way you are engaging. If you see right from session 1, I'm trying to bring in different pedagogies so that it is not same monotonous delivery of PPT and then a discussion. There should be something new and interesting every time. That will automatically make your program interesting and enjoyable. Even activities can be varied. For example, when you use quiz or flip chart or reading or demonstration or report, again it will bring freshness to the activity, to the session. Even the way you appreciate can be varied. So maybe when you ask your all group members to applaud for that particular person, or congratulate, or say thank you, or say wonderful. So what you are trying to do, you are trying to encourage participation by recognizing the effort they are making. So when I say you are free to give even wrong answer, see, you are trying to give an answer, even if it is wrong. And even when you give wrong answer, I say that's very nice attempt, but it's not the answer I'm looking for. So what you're doing, you are engaging them. And then of course, as I said earlier also, whenever you're giving some information, something, make sure that you provide evidence. So what are the different ways that you can provide evidence? Can you think of some ways? How do you provide evidence to what you're saying?
Full literature review and
data?
presenting the reports.
Okay, reports is a good way. What else?
Some statistical data, ma'am.
Okay, statistical studies.
Journals.
Yes, quoting studies is a good way. So whatever you say, if you have a source of what you are saying, that also builds your credibility. What else?
Examples.
Examples, but then, yeah, examples from the real life situation. Absolutely. I can see another answer. Data's famous cases in media. Yes, that's very important.
Data from our sources like WHO,
Yeah. So
like
you
that.
from a credible sources. So
Yeah.
there's so many ways to support what you are saying, because when you provide just journals, when you bring talk about the studies that are happening, so facts and figures, data, research report, definitely when you bring their, I mean, when you put that as a footnote, people will know that you are not talking on in air. You have read the content and you know its sources. Some exhibits like newspaper cutting, pictures taken on site, that's also a good way. So for example, you want to talk about how the toilets are dirty or how the front desk is not up to the mark, and if you capture some photographs and show them, people will not have a reason to say no to what you are saying. Things like demonstration. So when you ask, when you give demonstration or when you ask them to do something, so things like role plays, skits, videos, illustrations, they help to showcase this is what is the reality. And sometimes even some videos you capture, or you have a CCTV camera, and then you show that some of the clippings to your audience, they will know that what you're talking is on the basis of the evidence. Of course, like you said, some examples, some personal experiences, some analogies, all these act as a form of evidence, and they are very, very helpful. Testimonials from people, reviews written by people, they are also very good ways to provide evidence to what you are saying. So no message is complete without evidence. So make sure you make a good beginning, then you give the message, you provide evidence, and then finally closing. So there are so many ways to close. How do you close? How do you all close?
By asking about the takeaways.
Okay, that's wonderful way. Takeaways. Okay. What else?
It can be made into a group activity in which we make different groups and ask them to summarize together and then present, one person presents out of it.
I agree with you, but a lot of time at the end of the session, you're hardly left with enough time to do that in a real manner. So it has to be little quick and doable. Of course, if we could do something like what you're saying, that's a wonderful way, because then of course it will be very structured feedback or structured takeaway, no doubt about it. Yes,
Carry message.
Summing up with a take-home message.
yes.
Summing up with a take-home message.
So usually if I
Ma'am,
say, sorry,
ma'am, taking post feedback through the post session, ma'am.
so feedback is different from takeaway. Of course, in feedback also people give takeaway. So in closing, the idea is to summarize. Now if I say each one of you please give one point that you are going to apply, or that you think you really liked and you're going to bring in your in way of functioning. So what happens, people talk about different things that they liked or they are going to implement or they're going to change. So that infuses enthusiasm among people that okay, we can try doing this. But it's very important to close with proper summarizing. What have we learned? What is your takeaway? What did you like? So if you remember how from where we started, when we talked about how do you design your program, Couple of you gave very fine details, elaborate details, but couple of us were just writing 2, 3 points. But I'm sure, I mean, this session gave us a lot of ideas what all we need to, keep in mind when we are designing a program and how do we go about facilitating the program. There is okay. So re-emphasizing the objectives, and I usually ask one takeaway message from every participant from the program with a catch that it should not be repeated again. Absolutely. So the idea is that way everybody brings in 1 point, so automatically it gets summarized. So what is your takeaway from today's session? I think if each one of you give one takeaway, we can summarize the session and close the session here. Okay, facilitation skills. E-draw, very good. 10:1. Wonderful.
Humda.
Humda, yes, Humda is an interesting concept. I agree. Something new that we are talking about. Even adult as a acronym. Yes, 10:1. Dr. Abhishek, agree. E-draw, yes. See, e-draw is also a wonderful tool, as I said, and if you will.
Actually, IDRA is not that clear how to make it.
So eDra Mind Master, you can actually download its, go to the App Store and download it on your laptop. There are two versions. One is free, one is pro. So you don't have to buy pro. We are good to go with even free version. And in that, like for example, whatever topic you want to talk about, you write that topic as a main point, and then whatever ideas come about the content or pedagogy or activity or whatever questionnaire you want to ask, keep writing as a point, and then you create a flow in that. So what you are going to start, how you are going to start your session, what activity you are going to use. That way, I mean, it's once you will explore, you will find a lot of good ideas how to use that. I use it often for my, especially when I have to start from scratch, and where I know I have to write I mean, I have to prepare for a session or a program, and it's something new. I normally use that for my preparation. It's a preparation tool. Yeah. So different ways of engaging audience. Absolutely, that's also a good learning. Anu, what is your takeaway? Oh, 10,000 hours. Okay, okay. Preparation, goal, engaging audience, and takeaway. Yes. So I think I would say at least it gives us an idea that if you do it in a structured manner, the program can be far more impactful. You will not miss on important steps that we need to follow. When, like, for example, knowing your audience, sharing an Excel sheet with the organizers that please send me the details of the they I mean, I'm sure once they will see the utility and benefit, they will also appreciate your efforts. Yes, audience name tags. I think that's also very important. As I said, that gives you a lot of control on your audience. You feel connected with them when you call them by name. They know by a facilitator knows my name. That means I can't, stray here and there. I have to stay focused. Principles of adult learning, yes, they are very important, very very important, and especially if you know how to engage them, make them speak their share their experience, and then how to control that. We'll talk about it in the next session. We will spend around 30 minutes about that, especially those who are disrupting, say, I mean, the audience who are disrupting. As I said, that I had one experience of in a government hospital where I'd gone to do a program, and they were actually members of residents welfare association, doctors association. So they had come with an agenda. They were just not wanting to let my session go on. But after this session, I said, I can't let this happen ever. Then I went to do that program with Dale Carnegie. I think I told you in the last session also, 3 days program. I spent 45,000 rupees. I'm talking about 2014, 10 years ago. I think now they are charging something like 75,000 or 1 lakh. I don't know how much they're charging now, just to learn how do you handle such situations where your audience is not aligning with you. And I think we have to learn even that part. Easy task is easy for everyone, but difficult task is something we need to learn. That's the whole idea. So any questions about what we have discussed? Any comments, any feedback, anything you wish to say or ask? I know it's past. So credit goes to all of you. You do a lot of discussion. So if no questions, I'll share the feedback form in the group. I don't want to hold you further. I request all of you to give your feedback. And okay, one more question. Next week, I have 3 days master trainer program at Fortis Hospital. So I will be away on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So can we have this session on Saturday? I think I'll put the poll in the group. I request all of you to give your convenience. Because I wouldn't be able to come and do the session in the evening. It's a lot, it'll be like a lot of activity also there, and then travel time also. I wouldn't be able to reach home on time and do the session.
Saturdays.
Difficult.
That's the only day I can spend with my kids.
I know. How about Monday?
Monday is fine.
Monday is okay.
Yeah, Monday is okay.
Monday is better. Monday is fine.
Monday is 11th, ma'am. That is better.
Monday is 11th. Is that
Yes.
okay?
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Great. Thank you. Then I think Monday we'll have next session on Monday. I'll put in the group also. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you. Good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Ma'am, you told about some pedagogy methodologies, and we share the list of things that we should do. Will you be sharing this?
I'll be sharing immediately in the group. I request all of you to read the instructions very carefully before you start working on it. Please read the instructions carefully. That will give you all the idea. And if you have any questions, you can always connect with me. You have my phone number. Just message me and I'll call back and talk to you. Thank you. Thank you. Good night.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night, ma'am.